Hey guys, this is Blake here. I'm sorry I haven't been too fast with these vlog videos. Just too much has been going on, and whenever I do sit down to try to do one of them, I just kind of lose interest. So I'm going to do at least one more throughout the next week, since I'm going ahead and critiquing the critics off this week. So today I'm going to be talking about the I Spit on Your Grave remake and Hatchet II. Okay, first off with I Spit on Your Grave, I wasn't a huge fan of the original 1978, I believe it was, film. It's just one of those movies where it doesn't have enough of a story to be all that compelling. I mean, the first half is pretty much one big rape scene, then you go into the revenge sequences, and even though everybody thinks that the death sequences are kind of out of order, and I agree for the most part, I think you'd have to really change up the second half for that to work. But at the same time, the director, I thought, did a really good job with it. Some scenes, they're just haunting in their simplicity. I really like the fact that there's no score. I thought some of the shots, while a bit arty, they really do add to the atmosphere. So he did a good job with what was a movie that you couldn't really do a whole lot with to begin with. So imagine all the unofficial sequels and clones that were really sucky going off that same concept. And I didn't think a remake really needed to be made because of that. I mean, there's just not a whole lot you could do with it. But much to my surprise, I thought the remake actually turned out to be okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't awful. It actually starts off good, but then becomes worse and worse as time goes on. So, pretty much let me say this. It starts off, I thought, really suspenseful, building up to the whole rape sequence. And just so you guys know what it's just about a girl who gets raped and then gets revenge on them. And the build-up to the rape, I thought, like I said, it was really impressive. Lots of great ambiance, lots of great atmosphere. The suspense was bang on. I was constantly on the edge of my seat, even though very little to nothing was happening. To me, that's effective when you're really into it when not much is happening. When it gets to the rape, it's just real brutal, real unpleasant. Like one of the things I liked about the original is that it does treat rape as nothing short of evil, whereas most movies of that time often used it just for the sake of sleaze and titillation. The original I Spit on Your Grave definitely did not do that with its rape scenes. Later on it becomes kind of sleazy, but in this one, it has a few shots that suggest it was trying to be sleazy, but for the most part it's just real brutal, real uncomfortable to watch. Real intense, so it's definitely kept my interest up throughout the first half of the movie. There are some faults. I think it was the Cinema Snob who pointed out that there seems to be some time skips that you presume happen, but they never really indicate that well enough, so suddenly it seems like the bad guys are teleporting. They do that a few times, like there's one scene that seems like it takes place at night, and then suddenly it's day when she's running, and you just never get that feeling that there was a major time skip. But otherwise, I thought the acting was pretty good, albeit a little bit amateurish. But overall, I could see these people going places. I thought the sheriff and Johnny, or the guy who plays Johnny, did the best, and I could see them becoming really successful. So everything up until this point is fine. Just after this, things start getting really, really fucking stupid. First off, they really screw up with the narrative by having the film suddenly shift from the girl to the attackers. You never do that. That's very weak writing right there. In fact, I'd say that apparently the scriptwriter was kind of a novice, and it just really shows, and that's really what brings the film down. So after that, it just suddenly becomes cheesy. It becomes a total Saw clone. She creates these elaborate, extreme traps, and that kills them in incredibly gory and goofy ways. Now, I will say that on its own, I don't hate the second half. I think it actually was pretty fun, despite all its plot holes. They really did not think a lot of the film's devices through. Like, where the hell did she get a car? But I thought it was still fun in its own right, but it just didn't feel like it belonged with the first half of the movie. The first half of the movie was taking itself seriously. It was genuinely disturbing. The second half, though, just becomes silly. It's entertaining, but I guess it just doesn't feel like it belonged to the first half of the movie. It feels like two different movies that were spliced in together. And so it has some major tone issues. So all in all, it was. I don't know who I'd recommend it to. If it sounds like it could interest you, go ahead and give it a shot. If you like the original film, go ahead and give it a shot. And maybe even if you really hated it, because a lot of people who didn't like the original actually do really like this one. So I gave it 2 out of 4 stars on my website because I did written reviews for both of these movies, and I don't know, I just thought it was really uneven. As for Hatchet 2, well, first off, I did like the first Hatchet. The first Hatchet was just a complete throwback to the 80s slasher films, but also has a real nice sense of humor about itself. It's really fun. It's no classic, but if you're a slasher fan, you really should see Hatchet. The sequel didn't get very good reviews, but I ended up liking it almost as much as the first one, but it's definitely the inferior movie. The plot pretty much has the girl from the first one. She survives, and she finds out that her father had something to do with the undead supernatural Jason-esque killer's death. So she decides she's going to kill this guy once and for all, and she gets Tony Todd to help her. The problem with this movie is that it also has some real heavy tone issues. In fact, I'd say this one's even more apparent than I Spit on Your Grave, the remake, because it starts off as a real heavy-handed drama, and it is an effective drama. It was heartbreaking at times. But then it'll occasionally cut to a scene that is definitely funny, but it just feels awkward in these dramatic scenes. Then eventually it goes into extreme slasher mode, much like the first one, where it's funny and gory. And once again, it just feels like different movies spliced into one. And it doesn't work. It makes the film come across as really bipolar in tone. Sometimes it would even happen in the same sequence. Like you have this one scene between this couple where he breaks down, and it's pretty touching, but then it cuts to a sex scene between them where it's real funny, and it kind of demeans the scene that happened prior to that. And then they get killed in weird ways, and it felt awkward. It just didn't come together well. But I will say that, for the most part, when the movie wants to be dramatic, it is effectively dramatic. When the movie wants to be funny, it is effectively funny. And when the movie wants to be hardcore splatter film, it is awesome. This movie has some of the most extreme death sequences that I've ever seen. I don't even want to spoil it, but the last death in that movie, oh my god, I've never seen anything like that before. So, on a slasher film scale, the film I didn't think disappointed at all. It was almost everything I wanted out of it. I just think that they could have gotten to that slasher mode maybe a bit quicker, because, like I said, it starts off as a real heavy-handed drama and then becomes a slasher comedy. It's weird. And I also didn't like that they never really referenced the main guy from the first movie. In fact, I was actually keeping an eye out just to see if you could see a body that you'd presume was his in the beginning when they're on the boat, but I don't see anything. So, I'm sorry if I spoiled that. So, anything else? Oh, Tony Todd, I really like what they do with him here. He's a very bit role in the first movie, but here he gets much more screen time. He's one of the main characters, and you never really know if he's going to turn out to be a villain or if he's going to turn out to be a hero. You see a little bit of both in there, but one side wins out in the end. So that was really cool. If they only played that up, the characters up a little bit more, I think it could have been really interesting. So all in all, I already said what I felt who should see I Spit on Your Grave, but I think all slasher fans should see both Hatchet movies. So that's it. I'll see you later. If you want to read my written reviews, check the links in my description. Bye.